Outside of one-shots, you may talk to a player and say to them, hey, you know what your reward is for that gaming session? And they'll be like, what? The story. And they'll look at you like you're stupid. To them, that's no reward at all. A reward for them would be, did I gain a new level? Did I find a piece of equipment that is good for my character? Did I get something that seems to further their purpose in that way? Based on who the character is and what they can do. And you might be like, well, why aren't you satisfied with the experience itself? Like just playing the game in that way, creating a story with other people. Why isn't that the reward? And if a player was being honest with you, here's what they would say. Well, I came here to play a game. And if I'm going to be rewarded based on, the game aspect of what we're doing, well, furthering my character, by level, by stats, by equipment, well, that, furthers what they're doing in a game, right? And that's how many people see this as a game. Now, we have a minority of people in the hobby that are very loud, that see this as being more than a game. Like a story, like a play, like a drama class. And to them, that story, that play, that experience is the reward for the most part for what you're doing, or should be justified as a reward. I sympathize, where some of these people come from. But I want them to know the reason that minority has a conflict with the majority of people in the hobby, even the so-called tourist, is because the majority see it as a game, approach it as a game, and they expect a game. You might hear many opinions out there about dice and games, what people prefer, how they work, which is better, which sucks. At the end of the day, my personal opinion is I don't care what dice I'm rolling as long as they work and they're effective and the pace of the game isn't slow. So I expect a game master to be pushing the pace through dice rolling. Quick, efficient, done, decision made, on to the next dice roll or whatever we have to do. But all the dice rolling in that way is done at a quick, get it done pace with a game master that rolls it quickly, gives you an answer, and expects you and gets on you to be rolling the dice quickly to get to the answer to be effective. I don't care if I'm rolling 1 dice or 10 dice. I don't really care. I really don't care, right? I have a certain taste in games, and as long as whatever that's leading to is in that game, it won't have anything to do with the dice in that way, we're fine. I don't care about all the dice rolls. I really worry more about how the game master and the group that I'm in is going to, run that. Like, is it going to be really slow? Well, but slow, you can do slow with D20 or 6d6s. It doesn't matter what dice system you're using. You can just be going slow, and slow sucks. So, at the end of the day, I would tell anyone, don't worry about the dice rolling. There's other aspects of the game, and you know what I mean, that you prefer. So focus away from that. The only thing you ever need from dice in a tabletop role-playing game is for them to be, efficiently ran. Right? And if there's too many dice rolls, and that is eating up time or taking too much time, well then yeah, aim some criticism there. There might be that might be really where your preference is with dice rolling, not what dice you're using, like if it's a D20 or like 5D10s. It's more about how, effective it is. If there's too many dice rolls, or the game master in the group is going very slow, that's what makes dice rolling suck. That's where it can hurt the game. It shouldn't matter if it's 1 dice, again, or 5 dice. It should matter about how it works and how it eats up time. If you get through it quickly, you're good. You're playing good. And as long as that dice system doesn't add a bunch of unnecessary dice rolls onto what's happening, and that's not going to slow you down, again, you're good. Any system is good moving forward beyond that. Remember, Game Master or tabletop role-playing game designer. Your job is not to match reality perfectly with rules. Your job is to create the illusion that it matches, so it feels like the thing, right? So your dice system might not seem to cover exactly what's going on in the real world, but when it plays out in the game, does it feel like that thing in the real world, like your players and people would expect? Is it going by smoothly, like the way it might go in the real world, regardless of the system you have behind it. Well, if the results are that it works into your game like it does in the real world, how you put that together doesn't matter. There's a good example of like guns. I remember old guns and older games where you would see a lot of dice rolls for the guns, but one too many dice rolls. Like, you want to get rid of some of those dice rolls. I don't care how you do it, even if it might seem unrealistic, because you can look at the complications with the gun and go, oh, there's all these different ways for it to go sideways, down, up, whatever. And how many different ways can you cover that with different dice rolls? Well, you would see some games that would, effectively try to cover some of that, and to me it would kill guns. No, the idea is to create the illusion and feel. So even if you put it down to one dice roll, does it feel like your players with their characters are shooting off guns? Like, is that really felt into the system, right? Is the illusion there correctly? Well, from there, you can put in simplistic limitations that cover a few things, and you can assume some other things into those general limitations, right? And you can do that in a lot of areas, in the game. So remember, when if you're ever looking to host rule a game, this is how you make a game more effective. Find areas where there might be one too many dice rolls, and how can you cut back on that a bit. Or game designer, if you're going in, to making a game and you're looking at the real world and you're looking at all these complications to do with these different things, I would suggest that you try, no matter how hard it is, no matter how much time you have to take thinking all this over, is to simplify what that is, right? Put simplistic, outcomes, where there's the negative that you would expect from all these complications, but it's done in a more general way, right? So you don't have to add a bunch of dice rolls and unnecessary things that slow the game down. So that thing feels realistic in the game, even if the mechanics behind it seem a little unrealistic. How do you improvise without fail, right? How do you do it? Because you're always scared you're going to trip up, and you'll try to, get yourself prepared for every bad thing that can happen. But how can you make sure that you're not going to really fail at improvising? Work on your imagination. That's it. Listen, and really listen, instead of rushing to a thought based on a few words players have said, you know what I mean? Or already thinking about what you want to do while you're supposed to be listening to players. Focus on what's happening in the game if you want to pick up ideas from that to improve what you're doing as you improvise going further, right? You'll pick up ideas from players, and the more you just run your imagination without trying to think, like you're not trying to create thoughts, you're just allowing the information you're taking in from players and what's going on to help create the imagination. You'll imagine what's going on, and through that you'll imagine people around, you'll imagine other things, you'll imagine potential interactions, and it will come to you, really will. You have to allow your mind to freely just take in what's going on instead of countering what's going on with thoughts that you're trying to create, like you're trying to force in there. Like when you're trying to just have something inspire you, the idea behind that is you're just there imagining, you're listening to what's being said, and you're listening. You're not trying to create your own thoughts, and through what's being said to you, and through your, through your natural process of imagination, you'll imagine yourself in different situations in life and everything else. And that's how you come to very creative ideas. And that's how you can pretty much improvise without fail. If you're good at running your imagination, you'll always have an answer. It doesn't matter if it's bad or good, you'll have one. That's my point. Now, how do you run your imagination? I drill this all the time, right? You'll run it perfectly when you read a book about a story or something like that. No problem. You'll find out how far you can go. But many people don't practice it in what we're doing here. And if you're someone who doesn't practice it enough in what you're doing, how do you practice it? Just go read? We might be bored with reading. Here's a quicker way. 20 to 30 minutes, 2 times a week. Put the headphones on. Listen to some music that makes you think. Tell a story in your mind. You don't have to write anything down. No tedious work on that. Just imagine, make yourself the hero of the story, whatever the fuck you want to do. Do that twice a week. Do it for 2 or 3 weeks. And then go run a game. And it will change your entire experience about how you think. And again, practice what I'm telling you here when it comes to listening to players and taking in what's going on and considering things. Because to consider something means you're not trying to create a thought to come up with an answer. You're simply just taking the information in, and you'll let your imagination just run that source of information and see what thoughts naturally come from that. And from that, improvising becomes easy. It doesn't take much. They want to go over to this street. Well, you got to imagine a street, the town. If you can take things in pretty quickly, you already know what the town is. You have an idea. You've had to pitch that idea to your players. So you'll have an idea what the town is. Boom, they're going to a place. All you got to do is imagine that street. And from there, people will start popping in your head. And the more comfortable you are with just powerfully running that, and you have control of that, which you will gain control of your imagination, the more you practice it, the more you can just turn it on when you want to. And because you'll notice books will trigger your imagination because they're triggering you into the zone of taking in what the book says instead of you trying to create your own thoughts. That's why the imagination works so well when you're reading. Because when you're reading, you're doing exactly what I'm saying, right? You're taking information in instead of trying to create thoughts and allowing thoughts to be created naturally through that process. So that's what you do. That's how you improvise without fail and without fear. Doesn't mean you'll always have a great, imagination at the end of the day or a great answer in all situations, but you'll have an answer. Anyway, for now, take care. You know what you can do? You can hit the like button. You can share the video. Oh, and there's another button you can press. That one that lets you subscribe to my channel for more content. Oh yeah, there's that bell thing. You can press that so you know when I've uploaded a new video right away.